Hello everyone. Today we are going to be looking at the parts of our instruments. I will be demonstrating the first part with a violin. However, the majority of the parts on a violin are going to be found on all of our instruments. We will look at the items that separate the violins and violas from the cellos and basses towards the end. Okay. Starting at the top, we have this curved piece of wood. If you look carefully at it, it resembles the shape of a rolled up piece of paper. We call these rolled pieces of paper and the top of the instruments the scroll. Below the scroll, we have these wooden pieces that stick out. On the basses, these are made of metal, while on the violin and viola and cello, they are made out of wood. These are called pegs. They are not held in by glue, but rather by friction. Be careful not to bump your instrument, as you could release that friction and cause the pegs to slip. The pegs are used to make big adjustments to the strings. The pegs go inside this area that looks like a box, which is cleverly called the peg box. Attached to each peg is a string that runs down the length of the instrument. As we move down from the peg box and underneath the strings, we have this longer black board. We are going to focus at first at the top of this board. You will notice that there is a raised portion of the board. If you look very closely, you might be able to see that this raised portion is actually a separate piece of wood. This small little piece of wood is very important to the instrument as it raises the strings up and allows them to vibrate. This piece of wood is called the nut. The longer black board that the nut is attached to is called the fingerboard. The back side of what the fingerboard is attached to is called the neck. The neck attaches to the main part of the instrument called the body. The body of the instrument is broken into different sections. The upper curved part of the body is called the upper bout, while the lower curved part is called the lower bout. The curved side of the instrument's body makes a C shape and is called the C bout. If we look closely along the different areas of the bouts, you will notice some dark lines that run around the instrument. Now, on a quality instrument, these are not drawn on, but actually pieces of wood that have been pressed into a scribed out area. These black lines are called purflings and help to strengthen the instrument and help prevent cracking. In the middle of the instrument, and underneath the strings, there is a wooden piece that is holding up the strings towards the bottom of the instrument. This piece of wood is called the bridge. Something to note about the bridge is that it is not glued in place, but rather held up by friction of the strings. Just like the pegs, be careful not to bump the instrument as you could knock down the bridge. On either side of the bridge, we have this fancy letter F shape carved into the face of the body. This is called the F hole. Now, looking at the front of the instrument, I want you to look inside the F hole that is on the right side at an angle. And you should notice a small piece of wood that is standing up inside the instrument. This is called the sound post. Just like the pegs and bridge, it is not glued down, but is wedged carefully into place. This is done after the instrument is put together, and a special tool like this one is used to put it in place carefully. Here I have an older instrument that I have cut away a portion of the tops so you can see more clearly in the video the sound post. And just how easy it can come out. Dropping or bumping your instrument can cause the sound post to fall down. The sound post helps to brace the tensions from the front and back of the body of the instrument, as well as help deliver the sound vibrations through the instrument. Finally, we have the last thing in common with all four instruments. The black piece at the end of the strings is called the tailpiece. Now on a violin, viola, and cello, there will be these metal knobs at the bottom called fine tuners. We use these to make small adjustments to the strings. The next two items are only found on the violin and viola. The first is the curved piece right here. This is called the chin rest, and is where we will end up placing our jaw, not our chin. It would be more appropriate to call this a jaw rest. Finally, on the violin and viola at the very bottom, we have what is called the end button. For cellos and basses, you do not have a chin rest, as you do not hold your instruments that way. And you do not have an end button. In place of the end button, you have this contraption. This is called the end pin, and is held in place by this screw. The end pin is raised or lowered to help keep the instrument at the height that is appropriate for you to play. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a better understanding of the parts of your instrument and just how delicate it is.